The budget bill for state and local government offers one-time investments in cybersecurity, creates several commissions and task forces, and provides salary increases for constitutional officers and agency heads. Senator Erin Murphy, chair of the Senate State and Local Government Committee, joins me now to talk more about it. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Shannon. It's good to see you.
So in our increasingly connected digital lives, the dangers that are posed by hackers accessing our personal information are growing. Cybersecurity breaches recently in Minneapolis and Rochester come to mind for the school districts. This budget will provide grants to state, local, and tribal governments to address cybersecurity risks. Are these investments expected to be sufficient?
You know, I am delighted with the work that we have done in state and local government and veterans. Let's not forget veterans as a part of this committee. And cybersecurity is a key focus of a number of members of the legislature. And we took decisive action in order to allow local governments and schools, among others, to take action. And I do believe we are making a very strong investment for the protection of people's data and the privacy of that data. And we'll monitor that. And if we need to come back to it, we will. We know that this is a changing environment and people's data matters and the privacy matters, whether you're a school district, a local unit of government, or for your family. And so we understand how important this is, and we're going to monitor it and make sure that we're doing our job.
A provision that garnered some controversy involves the creation of a 13-member state emblems redesign commission that is going to be charged with developing a new design for the official state seal and for the official state flag. The law reads, quote, "The designs must accurately and respectfully reflect Minnesota's shared history, resources, and diverse cultural communities." Why is now the time to make this change?
Minnesotans are abundantly clear that we are a state that is in the process of changing. We always are, and we are. And the question about our flag, the state seal, the emblem, and our flag has been one that people have raised over and over again. And I think we've just reached that point where people say, yep, it's time. It's time for us to look at our history. It's time for us to look at who we are and what that means, and to see if we can come up with a design. And the commission's choice could include retaining the flag that we have now, but should we? Is it time? And the legislature said, yes, it's time for us to do this, and we'll see what they come up with. But I think it's a beautiful time for us to be thinking about who we are, what that means, and how we reflect that in our emblem and our flag.
And it should be said that our emblem and flag are sort of dated looking, and other states have modernized the look. It's almost as, it can be considered a branding type issue, yes?
Well, people who are experts in flags, and I am not, recognize that our flag does not meet current standards in terms of design, attraction, or brand. And I'm excited to see what they come up with. And I will also say that there are young people all over the state who are very invested in this question through the work of their educators. So I think it's going to be a great civics experiment and a great civics experience, as well as a very important part of Minnesotans' continued future, the legacy and what we bring to that, but what we're building for our future.
Let's talk about some of the legislative task forces, councils, and offices that are being created. This is just a few of them, but the first I want to talk about is a Council of LGBTQIA2S+, which encompasses lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, intersex, asexual, and two-spirit people. What is this council's mission?
You know what we're doing? We're expanding the table of inclusion when we think about the work of our state government. And they will serve, like we have seen with other councils, an important role of helping shaping the thinking of policymakers, of the executive branch, and making sure that the work that we're doing includes everybody, that we're not missing people. And often we miss people because they're not in our consciousness. And so this council, which I think is really important for the moment of time that we're in, will assure that we are asking ourselves the right questions, that we're considering the lives in an inclusive way of Minnesotans, and we're building policy that responds to that.
According to the State Demographic Center, by 2030, which is not that far away, more than 1 in 5 Minnesotans will be over the age of 65. To that end, the legislature is also creating a legislative task force on aging. What will this group be studying?
So I think it is right for us, knowing that demographic point, to make sure that we have built the systems, if you will, for people to age in place and age well. We spend a lot of time talking about nursing homes, about assisted living, about how people are going to get the care that they need. But that's just one slice of people in the way that we lead our lives. And people who are turning 65 are different than what we conceive of people at 65 maybe 30 years ago. People are still working. They're still very active in their lives. They're still driving. They're still participating fully in our communities. So are we built for that? That's the question that they need to answer. Are we prepared for a population of that size to age? We need to answer that question. But also, are we taking full advantage of the wisdom that they have to offer us to make space for that as well? I'm really proud of the work that we've done in state and local government and veterans, because we are thinking about our government as an instrument that serves the people, and we're making sure that it's well funded, but it's also preparing for a future for all of us.
People who visit the Capitol on a tour are typically asked when they get into the rotunda to look up at this little tiny dot up in the sky, the Electrolier, which is the chandelier that hangs. It was one of the first pieces of electrification like that when the Capitol opened. And historically, it is only on for Statehood Day, May 11th, and for the opening day of the legislative session. But this law changes that so that now the orb will be illuminated anytime the legislature is in session, so quite frequently in the winter and the spring. Why the change?
So this was a good idea that came from a colleague in the House. And it came kind of late to us, and I love it. And I will say that that orb, as you say, the Electrolier, it's a special part of the state's capital. It's a special part of Minnesota when it's lit. It is a beacon for the North Star, if you will. And when I think about it and looking up, just like when I look up at the sky and see a sky full of stars and light, I'm inspired by that. And I feel the very same way about the Electrolier. And so while some may view it as making something special less special, I think it is bringing something that's very special to life on a regular basis so that people can see it whenever they're visiting.
A political environment is not necessarily conducive to handling the salaries of elected people. This budget increases the salaries for the state's constitutional officers and for state agency heads, and I think it kind of takes this problem away. How will salary determinations be handled from here going forward?
You know, we have two compensation councils in Minnesota, one that deals with the pay of legislators like me, and one that deals with the pay of our constitutional officers and the agency heads. And that compensation council that deals with constitutional officers makes a recommendation every couple of years, and those recommendations have largely been ignored by the legislature. I think our constitutional officers up until now have gotten one pay increase in 20 years' time, and that's unfortunate. They have important work to do, and just like anybody else, their salaries should keep up and be commensurate with inflation and the work that we're doing. So I was really happy that in this budget we were able to find space to make sure that our those officers are getting the pay that they deserve for the work that the important work that they're doing for the people of Minnesota. That council will continue to do its work. We've reformatted it so they can come back. And I do think that it is time for that council to make some decisions, and we can allow that work to stand, just like we did with the legislature. We took that decision out of the hands of the legislature. Minnesotans did that by voting for a ballot initiative. We gave it over to a council. We have no say. We don't touch, we don't talk to. We are blocked off from the work of that council, and they make a decision about the salaries for the people who serve in the legislature, and I think that's right. It shouldn't be politicized, and if it is in our hands, we'll never do the pay increases. That impacts who can serve. We want people to come to this work not because they can afford it because they're well off, not because they can afford it because they're retired, but because they have an important something to add to the policymaking of Minnesotans. And if the pay doesn't support a family or the place where you are in your life, then they're going to say no to that opportunity, and we lose talent. We want that talent. Pay is important.
One final question before we go. The new law also stipulates that if the Senate does not reject a governor's commissioner appointment within 60 legislative days, then that appointment is essentially confirmed. Is this a remedy to what happened in Governor Walz's first term when the Senate was led by the Republicans, and at a later, several years into various terms people were let go?
Our responsibility is to advise and to consent. We need to do that. And over many years now, the confirmation of commissioners has become a political tool. And it's not just in this last term. It's been happening with increased frequency. And using then we might not confirm as a tool to leverage something from a governor that they might not otherwise be willing to do. We should restore our responsibility to advise and consent, but take away the impulse to make that a leveraging point so that whoever gets elected governor is able to assemble the team that can lead and lead with confidence without the fear of being fired for a political purpose that is not necessarily related to their work. That's what we did.
Senator Erin Murphy, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.